Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kircha. Coming up in today's newscast, Netanyahu doubles down on his annexation comments.
Palestinian Authority President Abbas agrees to help free Israeli captives from Hamas in Gaza.
And two incredible archaeological discoveries reveal new understandings of the Holy Land. For the third time in just 2 days, IDF fighter planes have hit multiple Hamas terrorist posts in the northern Gaza Strip.
That's right, and the attacks on Wednesday night were targeting Hamas military compounds, and they come in response to earlier rockets fired from Gaza into southern Israel.
Rockets first fell from Gaza towards the Chof Ashkelon Regional Council, and red alert sirens could be heard blaring across the towns of Zikim and then Mivkaim. At least one siren in Zikim, however, was later confirmed by the IDF to be a false alarm, reportedly caused by a needless Iron Dome interception attempt.
Now again, this latest attack follows two more this week, one of which actually interrupted Prime Minister Netanyahu's campaign rally on Tuesday, and the IDF responded in kind with both airstrikes and tank fire against Hamas military installations all over the coastal enclave. But critics are taking the opportunity now to blast the Prime Minister on his supposed failure to end the threat of Hamas.
Netanyahu is now asking voters to stop agitating for an operation in Gaza, promising that there will be an operation when Israel is ready. And while the premier doesn't detail when that might be, he says that there apparently will be no choice but to eventually topple Hamas. That being said, Netanyahu made the same promises before in 2009 ahead of that year's elections, and then after the 2008 war, Operation Cast Lead.
Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu is doubling down on his annexation comments, saying Wednesday that already he plans to submit a proposal for cabinet approval that would retroactively legalize the Jordan Valley settlement of Mevo'ot Yericho. And the cabinet ministers will likely pass this proposal in a vote on Sunday, just 2 days ahead of Israel's national elections. Roughly 300 residents live in Mevo'ot Yericho, one of 16 illegal settlement outposts that Netanyahu illustrated on Tuesday in his planned annexations map. 30 settlements across nearly 22% of the West Bank in total were earmarked, though, and primarily in Area C, which Israel governs already. Israelis in the Jordan Valley, then, are largely celebrating after the announcement. For example, David El-Yahani, a mayor of the Jordan Valley Regional Council, says that he was so excited that he couldn't sleep. Arab Israeli MKs and Palestinians, on the other hand, are of course opposed to the move, especially as 48 Palestinian villages housing about 9,000 residents live in the earmarked area, and Netanyahu has made it clear that he does not intend to extend sovereignty to even a single Palestinian. Also, nearly 62,000 acres of private Palestinian land sits inside the region that Netanyahu wants to annex, and there's no clarity regarding compensation of any kind.
Annexing the Jordan Valley in any way or form means one thing, means the burying of any prospects of peace between Palestinians and Israelis. Why such an administration and such a prime minister is willing to invest everything they have in order for our children and Israeli children to continue in conflict for another 100 years? Why?
Then meanwhile, ahead of Prime Minister Netanyahu's planned visit to Moscow, Russia's foreign ministry is warning against the move, as it could lead to a sharp escalation of tensions while undermining peace negotiations. And other Arab leaders, too, are blasting Netanyahu's announcement. Officials in Jordan, for one, even say that annexation puts the Israel-Jordan peace treaty at stake, while Hezbollah in Lebanon actually blames the Arab Gulf states for emboldening Israel with attempts to foster alliances and normalize ties. Netanyahu, though, still says that this is what the public wants, and that annexation is the best chance at preventing the West Bank from becoming another hotbed of terror like Gaza.
All right, now Israel's elections are just 5 days away, and many still have no clue about who to vote for.
No, they do not. Well, here to help us to get closer to figuring it out, we've got Chairman of Israel Media Watch, Ziv Maor, and Uri Zaki, the founder of the Front for the Protection of Democracy. Thank you both so much for coming in today.
So let's start by talking about the Netanyahu's push for annexation now. That's what's all over the news here. What is your take? Will it change the vote?
Well, this is aimed directly to the voters of Otzma Yehudit, of Jewish Power, the extreme right-wing party that is. Some say it goes over the threshold and will be eventually in the Knesset. others do not. I personally do not believe the polls that say that it will. The hundreds of thousands, or a little bit more than 100,000 that are going to vote this party are expectedly going to lose their vote because the party will not eventually go into the Knesset. Now, what Netanyahu did 2 days ago when declaring that he's going to implement the Israeli law over the Jordan Valley, he basically addressed the potential voters of this party and told them, listen, vote for me because I'm going to engage right-wing policy, so there is no need to potentially waste your vote.
Well, the last poll said that Otzma Yehudit was crossing the threshold, but we don't think that necessarily.
Look, it's very interesting. You said, Natasha, that everybody's talking about the annexation of the Jordan Valley. They don't. I mean, it's not major news in Israel. I completely agree that Netanyahu is trying to build, he needs a 61 majority. In the last Knesset, he had 60. That wasn't enough for him to form a coalition. And for Netanyahu personally, that means a proper potential indictment and perhaps spending time in jail. So he's not looking on the whole of the Israeli electorate, but rather on bits and pieces of the extreme right in order to build this 61 majority. People are talking today, for instance, the attacks in the Gaza, the areas in Israel surrounding Gaza, things like that. The annexation, and this morning Netanyahu mentioned that he will go to war with Gaza after the elections. That's the headline today.
He said, don't worry, Hamas is going to be toppled.
This is the discussion. The right wing,
Okay.
I myself as a rightist, I can say that
I would say that
in
people
my
are
surrounding,
talking
people
about that,
are
but-
indeed discussing that.
Okay, but
Not the news media.
Well, so going back to Otzma Yehudit, though, right now Itamar Ben-Gvir, the chairman, is trying to become justice minister should he get into the Knesset and join the coalition. Do you think that Netanyahu would give him that if he needed them to join, to get that 61-seat majority?
No way. Even if they do pass the threshold. I'm good friends with Itamar Ben-Gvir, and we're in touch. I did not hear him say that this is...
Would he be part of the coalition to begin with?
He won't be a part of the coalition. We had a Knesset in the 19th Knesset of 2009, was the 18th one, that the then named National Union, what is now Jewish Power, was in the opposition, was a right-wing party, a singled out right-wing party in the opposition. If Otzma Yehudit will eventually pass the threshold and will be in the Knesset, then they will be definitely in the opposition. Netanyahu will not have anything to do with them. This is how he always acts.
all right, well,
I'm not saying I agree because Netanyahu has to have the 61 votes for the how do you call it, immunity?
For the coalition, yeah.
For the immunity. The coalition is important, but it's not that important. The most important thing for Netanyahu, I remind us all, he is facing an indictment that would most likely lead to a...
well, he still hasn't had his pre-indictment hearing yet.
He didn't. He bets, and I bet he's going to be indicted. And that means there is a good chance, with the percentage of success of Israeli indictments is over 90%, that he's going to face time in jail. Mind you, his predecessor, Ehud Olmert, spent time in jail, spent 2 years in jail. So he knows that. He knows that the Israeli system already sent a prime minister to jail.
And that it is biased against him. But either way, whether Otzma Yehudit is in the coalition or not, they will vote for his immunity. There's no doubt about that, regardless
That's what's important
of whether
for him.
in the coalition or not. I disagree that is what is important for him, but I do agree with it. It is indeed, to some extent, both important for him and important for those favorable in democracy, and not for bureaucrats stumbling upon
democracy?
Yes, for democracy.
Law enforcement
and for
is not part of democracy.
The deep state and
Deep state? That's not democracy. That's conspiracy bullshit. I'm sorry.
And the enforcement authorities that are bullying Israeli democracy and Israeli voters, but trying to push away
a prime minister that's trying to do everything in his power in order to skip jail and abuse the law. That's not democratic.
Well, I can answer that if you would give me the time. Well, the fact is that many people complain that this election is is either for or against Netanyahu, and I agree with that because what stands against Netanyahu is not the left, it's not Benny Gantz, it is not Yair Lapid. What stands against him and against Israeli democracy is those bureaucrats who think that they should have the power to topple off a democratically elected government. This is what we're talking about. This is what this election is about. What you have just mentioned. When you said, for instance,
so you're
that Netanyahu is willing to give a seat for Itamar Ben-Gvir,
you're
for him
saying
to vote
that
for
the
his
Attorney
immunity,
General
exactly that
was appointed by Netanyahu, who has a kippah on his head, He was a member of his father was a member of the Irgun. This guy is part of a conspiracy to topple Netanyahu.
The only
he was
thing I
appointed
disagree
by
with,
Netanyahu, man.
The only thing I disagree with is the term conspiracy. Deep state has its own ways.
Deep state is a
Deep state
conspiracy.
has its own ways. No, it's
last
not a
point,
conspiracy.
Maybe there's a pizzeria.
All right,
with,
guys. Unfortunately, we have to end. One last sentence about what you think is going to happen. One sentence. What is going to happen in this election?
It's too early to know. It's going to be very tight, neck to neck. The main question is whether Netanyahu is going to have the 61 immunity coalition, yes or no.
The only prediction that I'm willing to make publicly is that the left is not going to be coming to the vote, and thus the threshold will be lower. The voting percentage among the left parties will be very low. This is the only percentages I can give. What will be the eventual result, I cannot
We'll
predict.
see if we have two psychics here.
Oh,
Thank you so much for
exactly.
joining us. Moving on, after 5 long years of captivity in the Gaza Strip, the family of Ethiopian Israeli Avera Mengistu is now appealing to an unlikely source for help. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Now, Avera's father, Leeli, and brother Ilan, and 7 other family members all just traveled to the Palestinian Authority's Ramallah offices to hold discussions on the matter. Former Israeli Knesset member Shlomo Mola also accompanied the Mengistu family into the West Bank, and he tells reporters that Abbas sees Avera's case as a humanitarian one and doesn't believe in taking civilians captive. Abbas says that he will do everything to obtain information on Avera's whereabouts and bring him back to his family. The Palestinian leader has offered these services in the past too, though. In August, Abbas told Democratic camp candidate Noah Rothman and Knesset member Isawi Frej that he would work to return Mengistu to Israel. And back in 2006, Abbas similarly reported multiple times that he was trying to secure the release of IDF soldier Gilad Shalit. Shalit was freed by Hamas in 2011, though, as part of a massive prisoner swap for 1,000 Palestinians jailed in Israel for terror. It's for this reason that Hamas has continued its policy of kidnapping Israeli civilians and soldiers. In fact, as of now, Hamas is believed to be holding the bodies of 2 Israeli soldiers killed in 2014, Hadar Goldin and Oron Shaul, in addition to 2 Israeli citizens, Avera Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed. Mengistu, an Israeli Ethiopian, and al-Sayed, an Israeli Bedouin, are both thought to be suffering from mental illnesses and entered Gaza on their own in 2014 and 2015, respectively. Their fates have remained unknown ever since.
Now back in Israel, and despite the growing fad, the nation's health ministry is issuing a warning against adding cannabis to e-oil cigarettes or vape pens. In fact, the official statement says that it could cause death.
Yeah, this warning comes on the heels of a similar warning from leading U.S. health officials. The U.S. Health Department is still making a strong suggestion to the public, especially teens, to hold off from vaping until they can figure out why hundreds of Americans are now coming into hospitals with breathing troubles.
Yeah, but 450 cases have come out so far across 33 states where people have reported having breathing troubles, and 5 have already died. But doctors can't pinpoint whether vaping is the culprit or not. What we do know is that all of the patients had one thing in common. They had ingested THC, the ingredient that gets you high in cannabis, using a vape.
Now, these people who are feeling ill say they suffer from shortness of breath, fatigue, vomiting, and chest pain. So where are we in figuring this out? Well, officials from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration are now considering that vitamin E could be to blame, even though researchers don't yet have enough evidence to support the idea, because recently companies have added vitamin E to thickened THC oil, and health experts say that while vitamin E is good for your skin, it's not good to ingest. No. Not at all.
Now then, the Israeli Health Ministry's Director General, Moshe Bar Simon-Tov, put out a YouTube video saying that e-cigarettes are harmful to your health, and he's urging people to, quote, be careful with what you put into your body.
Still, though, 20% of the Israeli population smokes, and many say that vaping has allowed them to quit the habit. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah.
All right. So this is really cool because we have some incredible archaeological finds to discuss today.
Oh, yeah. And here to tell us more about them is ILTV's Shana Fold. But first, let's take a look at one of the discoveries from Jerusalem.
שלום אלי.
שלום רעות.
אנחנו נמצאים בגן לאומי עמק צורים, בסינון העפר מחפירות עיר דוד וירושלים הקדומה, ואתה מחזיק עכשיו ביד ממצא שהתגלה ממש לאחרונה כאן בסינון העפר. מחפירות עיר דוד.
כן, אנחנו מחזיקים פה בטביעת חותם בולה ששימשה לחתימת מסמכים בתקופת בית ראשון. אנחנו מדברים פה על המאה השביעית לפני הספירה, תקופת ממלכת יהודה. אנחנו מדברים על חפץ שנמצא בחפירות של עיר דוד, מתחת לקשת רובינסון. יש על הבולה הזו כתובת, והכתובת היא לאדוניהו אשר על הבית.
All right. Hi, Shannon. Thank you so much for coming in today. Tell us a little bit more about this seal.
So the seal is a really cool archaeological find. It was dug up at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. It's small and round, and it has the words on it, Adoniyahu Asher al-Habayit.
What does that signify?
Right.
So it actually is thought to be the second in command from King David,
Wow.
who was the ruler of the kingdom of Judea 2,600 years ago.
Any
No.
idea who that might be, though?
Well, there's a few people that are mentioned with this title in the Bible, but we think that it was actually King David's son who had this seal, and it makes sense for him to have been the second in command.
Sure.
Right. Wow, that is so interesting that they're
Yeah.
able to make these connections.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, but we have to move on because there is another cool discovery as
course.
well that you have to tell us about. What is the second discovery?
Well, I like the story about this discovery because it's a little unusual. It was a local from the village of Araba in the north. He was in an Arab village on his way to do some electrician work.
Okay.
And he's driving in his car and he sees something unusual. He pulls over to the side of the road and he leans on a mound of soil and it all crumbles. And underneath it is pottery. Yes.
I love
Just by chance.
Just by chance. But this happens a lot in Israel. You said it was unusual,
Yeah.
but all the time we hear stories about,
That's true. Like somebody on a hike and they find a gold coin
Exactly.
or a bust
I
or
want to be
something.
one of
Sure.
those people. Okay,
Yes.
so what did he find?
So he found vessels, probably for grains or water, and he also found a bronze dagger blade, which is really cool. But the cool thing about it is that archaeologists were able to find that it's 4,500 years old, and from a part of history that is really unresearched here in Israel.
Amazing. Well, this is
Yeah.
very exciting. Thank you so much for joining us, Sean. And for more people who want to read about this,
Thank you.
Go to ILTV's Facebook.
Now, on a lighter note, 7 Israeli students have just returned from the International Robotics Contest in China last month with the gold medal.
Yes.
And the Israeli group participated against 72 other teams from all over the world in the event. Well, here now to tell us all about the incredible victory, though, is the Telenet Robotics team mentor, Netanyahus, and team leader, Yaniv Eisen. Thank you both so much for coming in today.
Thanks
all right,
for having
so,
us.
So how did you start building robots? How does a person start building robots?
So I'll start. This is part of an international organization called FIRST, founded in the U.S. Close to 30 years ago and came to Israel 16 years ago, run by the Technion in Israel. It all started out when one crazy American called Dean Kamen said he wants to have more engineers in the world, more people involved in STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And the way to do it is to excite students with this program, with
Robots.
that world, with robots.
So tell us about what you created. I mean,
So each year we get a new task, like a new game, like the world of sport, like scoring balls or frisbees or all kind of this stuff. And we get a new challenge each year, and we have 6.5 weeks to build a robot.
that will do that. That will do whatever that challenge is.
That will answer the challenge and earn the most points to win.
Cool.
And we do the whole process from strategy to design and mechanics and manufacturing, all by ourselves with our mentors, and compete in Israel and in the US and later in China.
So what was
how
this
old
year's
are you?
challenge?
Wait.
I wanna know.
Okay. I just want to know how old you are.
I'm 17 years old.
Okay, guys, no big deal. All
I
right, go ahead.
need
You
to
can
know,
ask
what
your
was this
question
year's
now.
challenge?
This year's challenge, we had like these big orange balls. We needed to score in like scores, and we needed to close the goals with like panels with a Velcro at the end. It's like a lot of rules and fouls, things you can do, things you can't do. But
Oh, you can actually see the visuals
Yeah,
here.
so
Okay.
visuals, you
Okay.
can see our robot
All right, so that's
competing on the field.
so basically. Oh my, this is crazy. So robots are
cool.
competing against each other to fulfill this task.
yeah.
I see a lot more activity going on here than I think I expected too. It
Yeah,
seems
it's
like a
like-
lot of people running around and
So the game is based towards 3 robots versus 3 robots. It's called an alliance.
Okay.
And you play together to complete a task. So like Yaniv said, You can score the balls or put the panels on with the Velcro, or you can play defense, or so you can be a defensive bot that's stopping the other alliance from scoring.
Like we might
And
not
it's
need
very-
to use actual Israeli athletes to go to the Olympics anymore, basically. We can
One
just
day.
use Yaniv's
That would be-
robots. Is that, yeah, that's a plan.
Maybe
I mean, Israeli sports kind of need some help right now, I would say. So.
Well, so what do you guys think of the competition this year? I mean, I know you came away with gold, but like what? I don't know. Did you have like stiff competition, or did you come away thinking, wow, we really?
Yeah, each year this is a process. We start by competing in Israel, like in districts with small competitions, and then afterwards we go to the district championship, like the national championship of Israel, and then the 15 teams who win goes to compete in Detroit, in the World Championship in Detroit.
Cool.
And China we were invited to an off-season competition, like to help the Chinese team because they're new. So we came with our experience from Israel and the US and gave them knowledge and experience that helped them compete.
So you're going to
Amazing.
Detroit then soon?
So we were in Detroit in
going to-
April.
you were in Detroit.
And from our success over there, we were semifinalists in our division there. We got invited to the Chinese off-season out of thousands of teams around the world.
Amazing.
10 international teams.
Well,
were invited.
congratulations.
Seriously.
What I am going to say is that I do have a task that I would like you guys to build a robot for, somebody who can follow me around giving me massages all day long.
that's
Or maybe
what you
just
need
clean my
students
house
for.
constantly. So
And
you just let me
interns.
know when you're willing to,
Sure.
develop a robot that does that. All right. Thank you so much for joining
Thanks
us.
for having us.
The notorious strip club, the Pussycat in Tel Aviv, has officially closed up shop. And now rumor has it that the building will begin to host Shabbat services on Fridays. ILTV's Emmanuel Kadesh is clearly here with the update.
It sounds so much funnier when you guys say it, but
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
It is funny.
It is.
but
It's extremely
yeah.
funny. But I was unfortunately not able to visit the old Pussycat Club before it closed, which was actually straight up famous here in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
And around the country, honestly. But the Jewish Education and Tradition Organization, Bet Tfilah, has been hosting weekend events at the Tel Aviv port area for the past couple of years. And now the weekly events will be moved to the circular building that was, up until now, the strip club, the Pussycat.
I always found it so strange that there was just this massive strip club on the beach because it's a very central area. People walk by it all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's a pretty good location then, no?
Yeah, for Shabbat services, I guess. But so why did the Pussycat Club close in the first place?
All right, well, the club closed its doors back in July, which wasn't too much of a shock to the people of Tel Aviv. However, it wasn't because the club wasn't doing so well. Years of legal battles between the Task Force of Human Trafficking and Prostitution, Israel Police, and the Tel Aviv municipality was all part of the cause, I guess. In a police raid back a few months ago, officers found private rooms where customers could actually receive sexual services for about $100, which, according to reports, actually a quarter of that would be given to the club owners themselves.
That is disgusting.
Yes.
And wow. All right.
I don't even, but the question is, are they going to be remodeling the place for Shabbat services after this information?
It's a very good question.
There's a lot going on here, okay? Well, of course, the Pussycat Club's license was actually revoked back in March of 2017, and then it was renewed in the whole renewal process, but that wasn't all that they discovered in the police raid. They actually found that some of the workers, the women working there were actually foreigners, and then they also found drugs of many kinds on the location as well, so it really wasn't too shocking that it closed.
All right, well, I guess as you said before, Manuel, the club's closing wasn't such a shock, for good reason it sounds.
Yes.
I'll be very interested to see the new services,
Yeah, I was just
the new
waiting for
Shabbat
you
services.
to say that. I could feel it
The
coming.
the more child-friendly,
You can go there
family-friendly
on
services.
your own. I have Shabbat dinner plans.
It's a great
this week,
location
okay?
to have Shabbat services,
Well,
so we
All
can only
right,
look
well,
forward to it.
guys, time's up. Thanks for joining us, Emmanuel.
Thank you.
All right, but it is time for a big sports update. The
is.
Israeli national baseball team is on a roll. They're right now in Germany
Yeah.
playing in the European Baseball Championships, and they're trying to secure a spot for next year's Tokyo Olympics.
Oh yeah, and that would be incredible. The team just came in second place, right in time for the playoffs, having already beaten the teams from the Czech Republic, Sweden, Germany, and Great Britain. Their one loss was unfortunately against the reigning European champions, the Netherlands.
And after two separate pools of teams have battled it out to get to this point, the Top Guns are heading to the playoffs, where the final five will then advance to the next tournament in Italy. Now, if Team Israel can hold their own and come out on top there, they will have a guaranteed spot at the Olympics. And we're keeping our fingers crossed, and we'll definitely keep you posted.
Absolutely.
So it's time for the
Go
weather.
Israel. It is time for
go
the- it
Israel.
is
It's
time for the
the weather. All right. Tonight should be partly cloudy and warm with a low of 75 or 24 degrees Celsius. And then over the weekend, you can expect mostly clear skies and a high of 87 or 30 degrees Celsius. Take it away, Aaron.
That is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.54 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kirchuk. Thanks for watching.